Hey everyone, this is Jeremy with Poindexter G, and today we are going to talk about the What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifle. Alright, so this rifle is a thing that was put together through InRangeTV, KE Arms and Brownells. It was basically just a project thinking about if Eugene Stoner were to continue working on the AR-15 with modern technology available to him, what would the AR-15 look like? And so trying to make it lightweight and balanced and high quality. And so this was put together, and it's a bunch of components from different manufacturers all put together. All right, one thing I'm going to show people here real quick before I get yelled at about it. Okay, got nothing here in the chamber. I'm looking in here, there's nothing in the chamber, and there is no magazine in it, which means this thing is empty. Okay, and one thing I do want to go ahead and mention about this right now is that this is mostly a What Would Stoner Do rifle. Basically, when the KP-15 Lowers came out some time ago, I bought one of these, and I had been running this lower with just the upper off of my Ruger AR-556 on this. And I eventually went ahead and bought one of the What Would Stoner Do uppers. I had gone for the cheap thing I had gotten, which means that it didn't have the ambi controls, but also it did not have a nice fancy trigger in it. Now I have since taken the trigger out of my Ruger AR-556 because this came with just a basic mil-spec trigger, which was kind of meh, and my Ruger had a nice what they call Elite 452 trigger, which I'm not sure that that's as nice as the ones that KE Arms is putting in these, but it is much improved over the one that was in it. Let me go ahead and talk about what all is in this upper, and then I'm going to get you into the story of what is going on with this polymer lower, which is interesting to say the least. Before I get into that, just the whole feel and balance of this thing is really amazing. This is really very lightweight up here, and the polymer, the single piece polymer lower definitely takes a lot of weight off of it. And this is just way lighter than my Ruger AR-556, which is a pretty standard AR-15. Even with my stuff on it, even when I go with like my O-Light here, which is not particularly lightweight, and with my sling and my optic on it, this just still feels much lighter. It just really balances well, and it's just hard to explain the balance. Yeah, well, I put a Hollow Sun that I took off of one of my other ARs and put onto this one. You can kind of stick whatever one you want on it. That's not part of it. Also the angled foregrip and the sling. And as I pointed out earlier, my O-Light are not things that come with it. That's all stuff that I put on it. Crap that I put on this myself. To start off with here, we've got a nice Faxon pencil barrel in here. The modern pencil barrels don't have the trouble that a lot of the others had, the overheating issues. They can still get warmer than the regular barrels that have more meat on them. So it is a little bit of a trade-off, but you lose a lot of weight that way. This carbon fiber handguard here is one of the things that really drives the price up on this, because this is an expensive component just on its own. But once again, this is way lighter than the aluminum ones that you find on other ARs. We have, I will go ahead and pop this open here. These don't have captive takedown pins in this lower. That's one of the few downsides of this, but it still works. We got this nice ambidextrous charging handle. So the nice one there, you can see how both sides of it work the little tooth doodad on that. That's really great. They call this the brake ambidextrous charging handle. It's got some of the What Would Stoner Do branding on it. This bolt carrier group is from Young Manufacturing. I may be able to get it to show the Young Manufacturing logo on it there. But it is heat treated and chrome lined, which is great. The bolt is the HMB bolt by HM Defense, which has a little bit of extra redesigning on it there to strengthen up the places where bolts sometimes break. I don't know that I would ever shoot this enough to break the bolt, but they've got the nice thing in there to make it where it won't come apart easily. The upper on this is nice upper that KE Arms had made. This one is made without the forward assist on it because the forward assist tends to not be something that's needed particularly often. Usually if a round doesn't want to go in there, you can just, you know, work the charging handle and eject it out and not have to bother trying to slam it in there. It gets this nice What Would Stoner Do branding on it. And then we get down to the actual KE Arms KP-15 Lower here. What's going on with this being a single polymer piece here that the stock and the grip are made into it. It also has, as you can see here, a nice flared mag well, which is a nice addition onto it because that doesn't take a whole lot of extra material on here. Whereas with a regular aluminum lower, you have to start with a larger stock of aluminum to be able to get that flared mag well on it there. So this KP-15 Lower here, what is going on with this thing? That they were, this was InRangeTV, which was Carl Casada, and at the time Ian McCollum, who's more well known for Forgotten Weapons. Ian's not like a regular host on InRange anymore, but he is still, you know, he was still very much part of getting this thing made and going here. They started doing, figuring out what all they wanted to do, and they tried out and they tested like different components for everything on here to figure out what is the lower that we want to put on it, what is the upper, what barrel, what guard, what bolt carrier, what bolt. Well, one thing that they had found was the, at the time, was the KP-15 Polymer Lower, monolithic polymer lower like this. That was the one that they had chosen on that there. And at the time, that was being sold through something called GWACS Armory. Now, GWACS didn't develop the KP-15 initially. The KP-15 initially was made through Cavalry Arms. And Cavalry Arms got into, when they were making things, they got into some legal troubles for something to do with like not selling things properly somehow, ended up losing their FFL, and Cavalry Arms went out of business. Someone that had worked at Cavalry Arms, Russell Fagan, or better known as Sinistral Rifleman, who you will see on InRange and on his own stuff a fair bit. He ended up with everything from Cavalry Arms concerning this polymer lower here, which guy that ran Cavalry Arms went ahead and sold off because he could not make rifles anymore. Fagan was going to try to do something himself with it and just found that he, while he had like the knowledge on that, wasn't able to get everything up and going on his own there, and he ended up selling that to GWACS Armory. So GWACS has it. They have the molds, all of the information about it. They're selling these things, and pretty much with injection molding, they just made a bunch of them all at one time, and then had a big stock and just kind of slowly sold off the stock. Well, they were slowly selling off the stock. That was until InRange came up with this what would Stoner do idea, and then they just ran out of KP-15s. And then it starts getting interesting because they say that the original molds that they had were worn out and they couldn't make any more off of those molds. That sounds like something that does happen with injection molding, so that's not an unusual thing. And they're like, hey, we'll get some more of these going and we're going to make some developments on this. You know, you had the original Mark 1 version. This is the Mark 2 that we've been making. We're going to get a Mark 3 out there. Okay, hey, this is great. And then they just kind of didn't. GWACS kind of effectively just went out of business, and I mean, they stopped answering anybody about what was going on and just kind of disappeared. And yeah, and like even according to like the Oklahoma Secretary of State, they had like up and gone out of business. So at that point, there wasn't anything really going on with that there. And that's when Carl kind of started getting with Russell Fagan again, and that's when KE Arms, who Russell was working at that point, got to, and that is where they developed, based off of his knowledge, this polymer lower here, the KP-15. And yeah, so that's where that went. Well, seems that like somehow GWACS kind of like came from out of the grave. They went and like sent a cease and desist, and this is where things get a little bit crazy. Now I'm doing a lot of this based off of what Carl has had to say, and so understand that, you know, what Carl has to say is from his side of it there. But they had just started to get these going, and they had KE Arms making these polymer lowers here, and then they had partnered with Brownells to be able to sell this entire whole thing, and they were, you know, selling these on, going to sell these on Brownells being a big time distributor. So, you know, that was a good thing for, you know, KE Arms to be able to get that going in it there. But yeah, they've developed that, and then they get the cease and desist. And yeah, you can look at what Carl has had to say about this. There's some others out there, a channel called Runkle of the Bailey. He's a Canadian lawyer, so it kind of explains the Bailey part. His last name's Runkle. It's a weird sounding name. He's a weird looking dude. Carl's a weird looking dude too, so you know. Carl obviously being on one side of this thing, Runkle having tried to get a little bit more of it there, looking at what Carl had to say, but also what the actual legal paperwork that had been filed by GWACS. Now Runkle himself has admittedly like gone to some of like InRange's brutality matches and stuff. He's probably more inclined to be like, you know, pro you know, KE Arms side. But anyway, this is where we get like trying to figure out what the heck is going on with GWACS, because they were supposedly dead and then they came back, and it seems that they got bought by some people, and they had GWACS Defense and GWACS Armory, which were like separate entities here, and GWACS Defense making things for like shot detection, being able to tell where shots are coming from. Now, if this was a technology that could work and stuff, there could be a lot of potential uses for that, you know. And it seems though that a lot of the GWACS defense people were kind of becoming very anti-gun, and I don't know, anyway, and this is all kind of ongoing here, and so yeah, it has turned into kind of a crazy thing. So the relevant parts of this whole crazy story to you are basically going to be a couple of different things. Number one, if you're wanting one of particularly these polymer lowers, because this is the part of this that is going to be involved in this, the whole upper of this isn't really in any danger of going anywhere. You can find these, and you can find other companies that make stuff, you know, similar to what's going on with these. But if you're interested in getting one of these, there is some question as to on what's going to be happening with these in the future, and if they're going to be made, because GWACS has like no interest in continuing to make any firearms. That has been made very clear, despite anything else that they may say. They've been very clear in various different statements that they're not going to be making anything. And so if, you know, the legal stuff goes wrong for KE Arms, these things could disappear. So if you want to get some of these and you're interested in this lower, might want to go ahead and get one of these. Also, the second thing is, if you feel like helping out KE Arms, one way that you can do that is by buying stuff from them. And so buying these are pricey. I'm gonna tell you, okay, I'm used to like cheap stuff, okay? I'm used to like looking at like Smith & Wesson or Ruger or you know, something from PSA, you know, so those are pretty cheap. This is a lot more expensive. So they're a little bit pricey, but that does give them an influx of cash that can definitely help them with a lot of their legal stuff. So that's the best way you can help them out. And once again, like I said, you can look at InRangeTV to kind of see what was going on with that. And Runkle of the Bailey is the other channel that I had pointed out that you can take a look at some of this and see what is going on with these things. Yeah, that's what's going on with this. So if you're interested in the rifle itself or what's going on with this KP-15 Lower, go take a look at all that.
If you found this video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down into the comment section and leave any thoughts you have down there. And if you're interested, you can also subscribe to my channel and click the little bell notification to make sure that you catch all the videos that I post so you don't miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you next time.